And if we are bothered by other people outside of the church coming home, finding God's lost kids, then we've missed the point. Hey, y'all, it has been a minute since we've had the Church of Now podcast. Been crazy over the last couple of months. Had another kid in the middle of a job transition at the same place, just in a different role. But been crazy. Lots of excuses made, but also life has just been wild. Trying to figure out, okay, what does it look like to host and run a podcast again from home when there's always kids running around being crazy. We're starting a podcast at our church, and so we decided to create a video and a podcast studio in the church. And so now this will allow some opportunities for that to happen for the Church of Now and also the Let's Talk podcast we're going to launch with our church. But I'm excited because it's going to allow us to have more conversations about what it looks like to be the Church of Now, but also have conversations with other individuals inside the church that are making a difference. That's what I'm really excited about, is being able to talk to people that are local or maybe far away from East Tennessee that are making a difference in the midst of the church. And so I'm grateful for that. I wanted to kind of kick off this year or this season of the podcast with a story. We just came back from the Next Level conference in Savannah, Georgia at Compassion Christian Church, and it was really good. That's the third time I've been. They do it every 2 years, and it's incredible. I know a lot of good people down at that church. But they had a speaker named Chris Hodges. And if you don't know who Chris Hodges is, he's a great leadership guy, has a good podcast, but also was the pastor of the Church of the Highlands down in Alabama. And he told this story, and this kind of sets up the entire podcast episode that we're going to dive into today. But he tells this story about how him and his family, they have 5 kids, him and his wife, and the youngest kid has autism. And I can't remember the situation or where they were at, but they were somewhere in public, and their youngest son got lost for 35 minutes. And I can't imagine losing my kid in a public place. Like, I've got 2 kids. I can't imagine the idea of, like, oh my gosh, where are they at? Are they safe? Has somebody taken them? But especially in their situation, just everything was a little bit heightened. And so just crazy for me to try to wrap my mind around. And so he talked about how whenever his son went missing, they did everything that they could to end up trying to find him. Of course you would. Why wouldn't you? It's not like you're like, oh, well, I got the other 4, or I've got the other how many ever kids you have, or if you have any. It's like, okay, we're good. One's gone, at least we got 80%. Like, that's kind of what he said in his story. They went after their youngest son. Of course they're going to. 35 minutes being gone. And I can't imagine the relief that they felt when they found their son. And it kind of puts it into perspective. But he talked about the idea of, leaving the 99 for the one. And he said, I'm going to go back to my church. And what we're going to do at our church is we're going to do everything that we can to find God's lost kids. And when he said that, it hit me. Because we are all God's children, and he did everything in his power to find you and me. He went after us. And the question that I have, and probably the question in the title of this podcast, is, do you actually care about the one? Do you actually care about God's lost kids? And I'll be honest, it can get into some moments in our lives where we can get so caught up in the busyness of ministry or in the busyness of life that we just focus on the 99 that are in the church and not the one that we need to go get. And I believe that we as leaders in the church, pastors or volunteers or whatever, need to remind ourselves over and over again that, man, we have to go after the one. Jesus has that whole story, right? That whole story where he goes after the one. He tells that story. It wasn't just okay enough to have the 99. He wanted to go after the one. And here's the reality. Sometimes it's not just sheep, it's people. Luke 15, verses 1 through 2 say that now the tax collectors and sinners were gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." They were frustrated. They were actually mad and upset that Jesus was going after somebody who wasn't already belonging to them. But that's not the life that we're to live. We're supposed to look more like Jesus. The religious people were bothered by who Jesus was reaching. And if we are bothered by other people outside of the church coming home, finding God's lost kids, then we've missed the point. You know what I mean? Like, we've got to do everything that we can to reach out to the one, to go after the one. It's not just the 99, it's the one. Do you truly care about reaching the one? Because I believe that if we truly care about it, then nothing will stop us. We'll dive into that here in a minute too. Are we ever more bothered? Listen to this. Are we ever more bothered by who's coming in than burdened who's still out there? Are we ever more burdened and bothered by who's coming in than burdened by the ones that are still out there missing? Oftentimes in our churches, we can just get into silly arguments. We can. And we talk about this a lot at our church. We don't want these things to hold us back from finding God's lost kids, right? But sometimes, and this isn't every church, and I'm not saying this is my church. This is just kind of in general of what we hear in our culture today. But oftentimes, the church will fight harder over music style than pray for their lost neighbors. That's not okay. Oftentimes, the church will try to protect traditions more than pursue people, and that's not okay. Oftentimes, we get frustrated by messy lives instead of remembering that Jesus entered into our messy lives. Man, we've got to go after the one. And it's not even that the 99 are the problem. Like, those sheep, they're doing their thing, right? They're doing what they're supposed to do. It was the one that ran away. It was the one that ran away that should be worried about all that stuff. And they're the problem. Well, it's not that the 99 are the problem. It's that complacency is the problem. Like, we can come to church our whole life, right? We can go through the steps and go through the processes and go through the week to week, coming to church every single week, and that's not a problem. Like, that's okay. But the problem is when we become complacent. When we think that, we've got to please the 99 more than we need to go out and find the one. Complacency is the problem. The 99 were safe, but they were also stationary. They stayed put. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you intentionally moved towards someone far from God? Another way we can ask this question. Let's make it a little more, let's make it more than just individualistic. When was the last time that your church moved towards people far from God? And maybe it is an event, right? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a program. And again, not that events and programs are always the best things ever. But has your church had the conversations and made the intentional steps to move towards people far from God? And here's the other kicker. Is your church ready if people far from God come to your church? Are you ready? Are they ready? Are they prepared on what to do? Are they prepared on how to welcome someone in and walk alongside them and help disciple them to help them know what it looks like to truly follow Jesus? Are they? A lot of churches will say, hey, we want to grow. Hey, we want to reach people for Jesus. But are they truly set up in a way where if somebody that doesn't know Jesus comes into the church, that they can feel welcomed and belonged? It's a good question for us to ask. Another thing that we have to understand is that at one time, we can flip this, at one time, you were the one. You were the one astray from God. Whether you've grown up in church or not, we've all had to accept Jesus. And some of us have stories where we actually intentionally ran away from the 99, right? And some of us, maybe we didn't intentionally do it, but sometimes it just happens, you know? But before you were a part of the 99, the church, you were the one. And you didn't clean yourself up. You didn't find your own way back to Jesus. You were sought after and you were carried by Him. And He's the one who brings you back home. And I believe that if we can remember those things, that will end up creating humility. And the reality is that without humility, the challenge to non-believers can become harsh, right? But when we remember that we are, at some point, or were, the one, I believe it changes how we see people. I believe it changes how we see our churches, because we need to do everything in our power to go reach one more of God's lost kids. And when you put it into that perspective, man, I can't imagine losing my kids in a crowd or wherever, right? I would do everything in my power to make sure I found them. In the same way, God does that for us. And He wants you, as His image bearer, to do that for other people as well. You know, the American church has mastered gathering crowds. You know, I mean, we've seen this for many, many years. We see it on Sunday morning. Over the last couple of years, our church has grown a lot. It seems like most churches in the country and in the world right now are starting to grow again, which is really good news. I think back to the Billy Graham era where people were filling stadiums. We're starting to see that again with younger generations in college. They're filling stadiums over and over and over again. You see Passion Conference, you see the Unite movements that are happening across college campuses. Like, that's really, really cool. And the church has been really good at mastering the art of gathering crowds. But have we lost the urgency to go and search? It's not just about coming to gather on Sunday morning or coming to gather at a conference. It's the week-to-week basis and idea. Are we going out to reach the lost? Do we have the same urgency as we do to gather the crowd to go out and search other people? A couple questions. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at this either. These are challenging me too, but here's a couple questions to consider about your life and maybe your church. Do our calendars reflect that mission? To go out and find the one. Do our calendars reflect it? Another question, do our prayers reflect the mission of going out and reaching people that don't know Jesus? Another question, does our generosity reflect the mission of going out and finding people who don't know Jesus? This can be an individual conversation in your mind, but it's also a church conversation. How does your calendar, your prayers, and your generosity reflect the mission and the urgency of going after people that are far from Jesus? Here's another question to ask. If reaching the one cost us comfort, will we still go? That's the real test. I love comfort. Comfort's easy. But what I've learned in my running journey is that, man, if you don't push yourself, you're not going to get better. If you don't get out of your comfort zone, you're not going to accomplish the goal. And so if reaching the one cost us something, cost us comfort, cost us whatever, will you still go? That's the real test. Will your church do whatever they can to reach the one? Not that we're worried about the 99. The 99 are fine. How do we reach the one? The 99 know Jesus and His voice. The one doesn't. And we're going to do everything that we can to go find God's lost kids, no matter what it takes. That's the goal. You know, when you think about the church of now cannot just be a place that gathers the 99. We must become a people who search after the one. And that's what we're seeing with this younger generation right now. They are gathering, they're doing all that stuff, but they want authenticity. They want reality. They want realness to happen. Yes, they want to gather, but they don't want to be the 99 that just sits back and allows the one to go missing. What I'm seeing in the younger generations right now is they are doing everything they can to going after the one. Nothing is stopping them. And so here's a challenge for you as we kind of close up. The first challenge is to pray for the one. Pray for whoever that one is. Maybe you don't have a one yet, but maybe God will provide one for you when you pray. The second thing is fast for one. This is one that I'm going to start implementing into my life a lot over the next couple of months, is fasting. And because I believe what happens and what I'm hearing, and I've done this a couple of times, but not as regularly as I should. But when you fast, you get clarity, right? Like God kind of reveals what He wants you to do or what the plan is. The third one is to invite one. Wherever you're at in your church, wherever you are in the country, wherever, invite one. Invite somebody to come with you. And then finally, invest in one. So pray, fast, invite, and once they come, you got to keep investing. And yeah, you got to invest before to get them there. But I think we also need to invest after, because you have to disciple them. You have to show them what it looks like to follow Jesus. Man, that's the challenge. That's the challenge. If we want to be a church that is successful, and I'm not just talking about our church, I'm talking about the global church. If we want to be a church that's successful of going out and finding people that don't know Jesus, then this is what we have to commit to. Because if we quit going after the one, if we only hang out with the 99, then the church is going to die out. And that's not the way God intended it. In fact, I believe what Chris Hodges said of doing everything that we can to find God's lost kids. I believe that's the mission. Going to find those who are far from Jesus. And so don't allow anything to stop you from finding the one. There might even be things at your church that you might have to change that are stopping you from knowing or finding people that don't know Jesus. But it's worth it. Might be hard, but it's worth it. So go find God's lost children and bring them home to a loving relationship with Jesus. I think that's so important. You know, my hope is that we never become a church that protects our comfort more for the people, that we end up going and forgetting the one. May we never protect our comfort. We're not called to be comfortable. We're called to always be stretched. We're called to always go out of our way to find the one, right? May we never forget that we were once the one. We can't sit around and be comfortable. We got to go after the one. And my prayer is this: may we always reflect the shepherd who leaves the 99 and goes after the one. Because if our lives look like Jesus, like the true shepherd, then I believe we're going to end up automatically being led to the one who's far from him. Because that's what he did. That's the lifestyle that he chose. And so hopefully this is a challenge. Maybe it's individual for you. Maybe it's something you want to take back to your church. This is something I came back from that conference with, of like, man, what are the things in our church that are holding us back from finding the one? Is it our comfort? Is it our tradition? Is it our calendar? Is it internal things that we have to rush through? What is it? We need to get rid of it. Because there's somebody out there right now that's waiting for you in your church to seek after them in the name of Jesus and bring them home. So go find God's lost kids. Do you actually care about the one? Because Jesus did.